Chapter 1, The Invitation. It was a fog-drenched October evening when Elise Moreau first received the letter. The envelope, sealed with crimson wax bearing an intricate sigil she didn't recognize, stood out among the usual bills and advertisements littering her worn oak table. Her curiosity turned to unease as she opened it. The message, penned in elaborate script, read, "Dearest Miss Moreau, you are cordially invited to Blackthorn Manor to assist in cataloging a unique collection of ancient artifacts. Your reputation precedes you, and I believe your expertise will be invaluable. A carriage will arrive on the evening of October 31st. Yours sincerely, Margaret Thorne." Elise had never heard of Margaret Thorne or Blackthorn Manor, yet something about the letter compelled her. As an archivist and historian, she was no stranger to unusual requests. The allure of ancient artifacts and the mystery of the manor proved too enticing to resist. When the appointed evening arrived, the carriage appeared as promised. The driver, a pale man with sunken eyes, spoke not a word as he guided the horses through twisting, unfamiliar roads. As they ascended a hill, the silhouette of Blackthorn Manor emerged from the mist, its jagged turrets clawing at the stormy sky. The front doors creaked open as she approached, revealing a grand yet decaying foyer. A cold draft carried the faint scent of mildew and something sweeter, more sinister. Margaret Thorne appeared moments later, a gaunt woman draped in black velvet. Her dark eyes seemed to peer into Elise's soul. "Welcome," she said, her voice smooth as silk. "You are just in time. The others have already arrived." Chapter 2, The Guests. The dining hall was a cavernous room dominated by a long oak table set with tarnished silverware and flickering candelabras. 6 other guests were seated, each an odd character in their own right. Margaret introduced them with an air of detachment. There was Dr. Victor Hargrove, a balding archaeologist with a nervous disposition, Rosalind Page, a glamorous yet aloof art dealer, and Arthur Grayson, a rugged treasure hunter with a penchant for dark humor. Rounding out the group were twin sisters, Cecilia and Beatrice Ward, whose unsettling synchrony in movement and speech made Elise's skin crawl, and finally, Elias Crane, a reclusive novelist with piercing gray eyes that lingered too long on everyone. As dinner commenced, the guests exchanged polite conversation, but an unspoken tension hung in the air. Elise couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Shadows danced on the walls in unnatural patterns, and the wind howled outside as though mourning some unseen tragedy. Margaret's voice cut through the murmurs. "I must warn you, Blackthorn Manor holds many secrets. As you conduct your work, be vigilant. The artifacts are not mere curiosities. They carry history, and sometimes, history carries us." Her cryptic warning unsettled the group. That night, as Elise retired to her room, the weight of the manor seemed to press down on her. Sleep came fitfully, haunted by the sound of faint whispers just beyond the edge of hearing. Chapter 3, The First Discovery. The next morning, the group gathered in the manor's library, a sprawling labyrinth of shelves filled with ancient tomes. Margaret provided them with a detailed inventory of the artifacts, each accompanied by vague descriptions and enigmatic symbols. Elise's attention was drawn to a small, intricately carved wooden box. As she examined it, Arthur leaned over. "Careful with that. Looks like it could bite." His grin did little to ease her apprehension. The box bore strange glyphs that seemed to shift when viewed from different angles. Despite her reservations, Elise's curiosity got the better of her. She opened it. Inside was a shard of obsidian, its surface unnaturally smooth and cold. The moment her fingers brushed against it, a jolt shot through her hand, and a vision flashed before her eyes, a shadowy figure standing at the foot of her bed, its form indistinct but its presence malevolent. She recoiled, dropping the shard. The others rushed to her side, but the vision's intensity left her shaken. "What did you see?" Elias asked, his voice unusually calm. Elise hesitated. "A figure, watching me." Margaret, who had been observing silently, stepped forward. "The manor has chosen to reveal itself to you. You must be careful now, Elise. The shadows here are not mere tricks of light." Chapter 4, The Unraveling. Over the following days, the manor's grip tightened. Each guest experienced their own terrifying encounters. Rosalind awoke to find her reflection moving independently in the cracked mirror. Victor's notes were rewritten in an unknown hand, describing events he had never witnessed. The twins began speaking in an ancient language, their voices echoing unnaturally. Elise found herself drawn to the library's forbidden section, where she uncovered an old journal belonging to a previous inhabitant, Lord Alaric Blackthorne. The entries detailed a ritual to summon and bind an entity known only as the Whisperer. The final entry read, "I have made a grave mistake. The Whisperer cannot be controlled. It feeds on fear, growing stronger with each passing night. To all who find this, leave while you can." As she read, the room grew colder. A faint rustling sound came from behind her. Turning, she saw a shadow, humanoid but shifting, its featureless face locked onto her. Chapter 5, The Reckoning. Desperation gripped the group as the manor's malevolence escalated. Margaret revealed the truth. Blackthorn Manor was a prison for the Whisperer, a being summoned centuries ago by her ancestors. The artifacts served as anchors, binding it within the manor's walls. "But the bindings are weakening," Margaret admitted, her voice heavy with guilt. "It feeds on your fears. We must perform the sealing ritual before it escapes." The ritual required each of them to confront their deepest fear. One by one, they faced their personal horrors. Elias confronted the specter of his dead wife. Rosalind shattered the mirror that mocked her vanity. The twins' unity was tested as they were forced apart. When Elise's turn came, she returned to the shard of obsidian. Grasping it, she was transported to a dark void ere the shadowy figure loomed. Summoning every ounce of courage, she declared, "You are not real. You are nothing but fear." The shadow recoiled, shrieking as light erupted from the shard, banishing the darkness. Back in the library, the group completed the ritual, chanting the incantation from Alaric's journal. The manor shuddered as a deafening roar filled the air. Then, silence. Margaret collapsed into a chair, her face pale but relieved. "It is done. The Whisperer is bound once more." The survivors departed at dawn, the manor's oppressive presence lifting as they left. Elise glanced back one last time. In a high window, a shadow moved, watching her go.